Okay, so if God is the creator of everything, does that mean God also created sin? That made God the ultimate sinner? That's a question I've asked multiple times. Now here's the thing. Some religions believe that masturbation is a sin that's morally wrong. If you got someone who has a lot of sexual aggression and a lot of, drive, I'd much rather that person masturbate than actually go out and rape somebody. The world would be a much less nasty place for it, you know what I'm saying? And, it's just the thing, too, is that, Christians want to act like that, sex is the devil's work and yada, yada, yada. The truth of it is, though, anything in advertising, especially sex, it's a attention grabber, The very basic example of that would be, your cheesy 90s beers commercial featuring bikini-clad women. Generally, demographic audience was males in that retrospect, and and they do shit like that, to sell their product, and it just is what it is. I emptied the ashtray on my altar over there, all the cigarette butts I could find, broke it up into the pipe there. Stale. So basically, particularly in Christianity too, they believe in drinking the blood of Jesus and eating his flesh. Cannibalism and vampirism. Makes you really think about it, doesn't it? Basically, worshiping a sheep herder and cannibalizing him and eating or drinking his blood. Nice. And Christians and Catholics say that Satanists are fucked up. Some of them can be, yes, but generally not all Satanists are bad people. And I think it's just one of those things that's highly misunderstood. But I think with religion especially, you're going to have your extremes for any religion for that matter. Following the latest controversy surrounding the Oklahoma City religious monument thing, some people are claiming that other religions are trying to doctrine law, and that, it's just, you know what? Well, if you know the story, basically, there's a bunch of religions fighting over putting up their monuments in their Oklahoma City. Now, the state says, it's perfectly okay, it's perfectly legal, as long as your religion funds it, then it's perfectly okay. So, the Christians and or Catholics or what have you put up the 10 Commandments. And the Satanists said, well, if they can do that, then we want a statue of Satan. And some Christians are like, oh no, you can't do that, it's not okay. Well, wait a second, didn't you just get done putting up the 10 Commandments? If it's okay for you, why is it okay for them? Well, it's because they don't think like you? Does that make you a bit hypocritical? Just stop a little bit. And what amused me about it was seeing some of the interviews about it on Fox News, like, through the Young Turks there, and I'm thinking, well, what the fuck? You're going to bitch out somebody for believing in something because they don't believe in the same system you believe in? It's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? You're basically, what I'm saying? It's just like, for one, that's freedom of religion, okay? Now, if they erected a monument, the Satanists of the rules of Satanism and shit like that, they couldn't do it. But a statue of Satan, that's not a big deal. Now, if they erected a statue of Jesus versus the 10 Commandments, the statue probably wouldn't have been that big a deal. But, forcing the 10 Commandments and all like that is freedom of speech and freedom of religion, separation of church and state, all in one. Yeah. So, something to think about. I know people have been asking to join my cult on YouTube. There's some comments in the comment section. And I had a couple videos up in the past where I tried to explain it, and I ended up deleting them because people are using them to make fun of them. And, I'm studying some more into the dark arts, if you will, so I can get a better insight into it, so not just, the basic stuff I know, but I'm getting deeper into it and stuff, and getting a lot of knowledge, and it's cool shit. I like it, But the thing you have to understand is that, with everything in life, there is energy, okay? It just is what it is. It is the force that is behind life. Once your energy leaves your body when you die, where does it go? That's a lot of questions people ask. And generally when a person dies, they can't come back and say, oh yeah, I was floating around, and some people, have claimed to have had near-death experiences, have seen the light, have seen Jesus, and they believe in it. And you know what? That's their prerogative, man. But then you start throwing a bitch fit because someone wants to do the same thing you're doing, only support their beliefs, you know what I'm saying? Then, it's like that. So, and for up to me, I go down to the Oklahoma City, high five the Satan statue, and pentagram spray paint the Ten Commandments. I'd be like, there. But I wouldn't really do that. But, you know what I'm saying? But it wouldn't make me any better than the Christians for shoving beliefs in said face, you know what I'm saying? So, and if someone asks, generally, I'm very proud of my faith, you know what I'm saying? But I got to be careful about who I tell to, because apparently it's against, faith rights and all that, and religious sense and all that. So, yeah, but that's just the thing, if I encounter another person shoving their religious beliefs down my throat, I'm not going to be an immediate dick about it. I'm just going to ask them, what's your faith? And I go, well, what's yours? And, the last person that did that to me, I explained to him of a spiritual connection on a much higher plane of existence, and that went over his head like, okay? I'm explaining to you something, okay? I'm an Aries. That's my zodiac. I was born under the goat's head and under the fire. Now, what does that tell you about me? I'm into making wands. I'm into the practice of a craft of sorts. So, yeah, this path very much, very, 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 very much fits me. Okay. But, I just find it extremely hypocritical when, they say you can do this, but then they turn around, and even the governor and the government officials of that state are all saying, well, we will not tolerate this because we are a state that, basically says that they're Christian or Catholic, and that if you're anything else, you're worthless to them, and that's bullshit. That's bullshit that people treat people like that. It really is. And not only that, but because it's talked about in the news all the fucking time, it generally paints a bad picture about Christians and Catholics, and that isn't fair for them either, is it? No, it isn't. And here's the thing, basic example, we'll get back to the subject here in a bit, but when I was in Job Corps, we were allowed to listen to the radio we had in my trade, It was a pretty diverse group. We had some people that liked the main, the auto-tune, and some people who liked country, and some people who liked rock, and for the most part, people just wanted to listen to auto-tune, and you couldn't listen to your iPod in trade, otherwise, it's just one of the things you couldn't do, So, compromise come through and listen to the rock station for about 10 minutes or so, and then they get sick and tired, and they complain. They say, all I want to listen to is rock and roll. And a couple of times we had our trade instructor take the radio away because we couldn't, quote, unquote, act like responsible young adults or be mature about it. And then there was no music at all. So it's just one of those things. And because of that, I grew to hate some of today's music a lot more than, yeah. So, but anyway, to that aspect, now if you apply that to the religious monuments in Oklahoma City, it's like, well, if you can't play nice, then we'll just say no one can put a religious monument on there, okay? But that's not going to happen because then people will bitch because they'll feel well, it's our freedom to practice our religion. Yeah, it is, but if your monument is going against 3 constitutional rights and pissing a lot of people off at the same time, chances are it's not a good idea. Now, if they erected a cross that said Jesus loves you on it, then, you know, that wouldn't be nearly as bad as the Ten Commandments, you know. And I believe one of the Ten Commandments is love thy neighbor. And when you're sitting on Fox News bitching at people because they want to erect a statue of Satan in Oklahoma City because they're doing the Ten Commandments, that's not loving their neighbor, thy neighbor, is it? And that's not saying you have to kiss his ass. It's just saying, you know what, it's a respect thing. You know, you're not going to go shoving your beliefs down his or her throat, and they're not going to do the same to you. You know what I'm saying? And some Christians get really offended when you point this out. Like, how dare you point the Ten Commandments out my blog? Well, it's in your fucking belief system, you know? And you point your belief system out to them, and to prove your point on the idiocracy of it, and it pisses them off sometimes. And understandably why, but at the same time, you know? Oh. Just gonna dump that cigarette tobacco out in the ashtray. That is... oh, that's stale. And it just goes to show the immaturity in our country. These supposed adults who are out of high school, and some of them went to college and got degrees in some shit, you know what I'm saying? And they're sitting there bitching and complaining because, oh, how dare they speak their opinion, share their beliefs, you know? I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, even if it's the Ten Commandments, I wouldn't care because it's not my call, you know what I'm saying? But if anything, you know, why not let every religion erect a statue in Oklahoma City? The town to be covered in them, you know what I'm saying? And it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. It would just show how culturally diverse our country is, you know what I'm saying? It's not all just Satanists and Christians and Catholics. There's also Buddhas, Hindus, and other faiths, if you will. And that's just the thing with faith. I've said this 1,000 times, I want to say it again. Religion is nothing more than a spiritual path, if that makes any sense. A need to find guidance. Some people find guidance in Satan, and some people find guidance in Jesus. Okay? And especially, again, so hypocritical of the Christians and Catholics to be all pissed off and butthurt because someone's going to erect a Satan statue next to the Ten Commandments. When, if you read the Bible, Satan is a part of your belief system, is he not? He's the bad guy in your system, and that's probably why, you know. But, you know, I think, like I said, you know, I think Satanism is very misunderstood, you know. Very, 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 very misunderstood. There are some people who sacrifice animals, yes, but they don't just waste the animal, they eat it too. You know what I'm saying? And if anything, the sacrifice, yeah, there are people who sacrifice animals to the deities and to their rights and their sex, if you will, but not sex like S-C-X, like S-E-C-S. You get what I'm saying, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. But generally, those people who do that also eat the animal they've sacrificed, so it doesn't go to waste. You know what I'm saying? And in that principle, it's like, oh, look, you know, people get upset about that. It's like, yeah, well, you know, what about your cows making your cheeseburgers that you eat? You see what I'm saying? The only difference is that there's no religious practice behind it. It's just killing a cow so you can eat. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of eating meat, there are some vegans who are so unbelievably naive. It's unbelievable. And if you're a vegan, you choose to eat vegetables, it's like religion, it's your choice. But don't go calling meat eaters vicious murderers and blood slayers and all that other shit, because plants are living things too. Now, they may not walk and eat on their own. Well, they do kind of eat on their own, the photosynthesis and all that, but just because there isn't a cute face on them plants doesn't mean they aren't alive. If plants were not alive, they wouldn't go to grow in the sun, would they? You know, something to think about. It's good to have a tin of pipe tobacco when you're out and smokes. And it's a little dry, but it's still got some of that nice smell to it. It's not as stale as that cigarette tobacco was. Wake the spirits up and take a shot. Oh, yeah. That's what's up. If you've ever had Fireball whiskey, it basically tastes like liquefied Fireball jawbreakers with a nice whiskey burn. Delicious. This bottle was not empty in the course of one day. This was over the course of a couple days. So, yeah. On a different note, if you're going to buy, you can go to the bar and have drinks, or go to the club and have drinks, or you can stay at home and drink. The advantage of going to the club or going to the bar would be the social setting, going out with your significant other or going out with a couple of buddies of yours having drinks, versus saving a couple bucks and drinking at home, you know what I'm saying? Because you can buy, if you're old enough to go into a bar, you're definitely old enough to go into a liquor store and, buy your own stuff and make your own drinks at home and have your own party there. But, it's really just a matter of what you prefer. When you look up an Aries and their qualities, if you will, and I was reading this in a book last night, and it pretty much explained me to a T. Holy shit. But as humans, we have developed this thing called, the good and evil concept of what each person perceives as good and evil. And there's times that line gets blurred a little bit because sometimes people who appear to be evil may not be so bad after all. Just misunderstood. But yeah, if you want to piss off a bunch of people in this country, or any country for that matter, you bring religion into it, and it's bound to happen eventually. If you could discuss religion and debate it like mature young adults, that's one thing, but some people, they debate religion, and it gets out of control, it gets out of hand, and, all puns aside. Skate, 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 skate. And here's the thing. I'm sure a lot of women or men who are getting raped out there would probably tell you the same exact thing. They'd probably say they'd much rather have someone masturbate into their hand or into a wad of tissue and throw it away versus end it up in them, I can't imagine going through something like that. It's horrible shit. And if you're having these urges, you know what I'm saying? There's ways of, and I was there at one point, I wasn't very socially acceptable around women growing up. It kind of sucked, I'm not going to lie. And a lot of it was because of some minor misunderstandings and stupid bullshit, But after meeting Stephanie, all of a sudden, women around me started acknowledging my existence. I'm like, well, what the fuck, And I realized, it's because of how awesome I treat Stephanie. And they're seeing it and going, no, they're not going to, But if you're in that situation where, you're not socially acceptable, you know what I'm saying, and masturbating is not cutting it, you might want to invest in a sex doll or something, just something to keep the urge healthy, at least, in some retrospect, if that makes any sense. Because here's the thing, you rape somebody, you get caught, and you get convicted, that goes on your record for life, and you end up in prison where, ironically enough, you get raped. And that is the vicious, ironic circle of life, isn't it? You know, and honestly, it's just ridiculous that people make this big of it. It's just a statue, okay? It's not like you're saying you have to be a Satanist now, okay? They're just expressing the same right that the Christians have, okay?
I wonder if they're jealous because the Satanist one looks a little better than the Ten Commandments.
The what?
I wonder if they're jealous because the Satanist one looks better than the Ten Commandments one.
Right. Yeah, because the Satan statue is not shoving your belief down your throat. It's just a statue. It's just a figure, you know. And here's what gets me. Some Christians and Catholics are very anti-nudity. They view nudity as pornographic and sexual and, you know, the devil's working, you know. But if you go to the Sistine Chapel, there's two naked dudes on the ceiling. And they're pointing fingers at each other, you know. Something to think about. And when it comes to sex and shit, man, you gotta be willing to be honest with your kids on that shit. Because if you don't, 9 times out of 10, they find somebody they're, you know, maybe like that girl they've been friends with all these years, and all of a sudden, you know, one thing leads to another, she ends up pregnant, you know what I'm saying? And scolding your kid about it when you didn't do anything to teach him or her, you know, about shit, you know what I'm saying? As a parent, that's got to be frustrating and difficult to deal with because, you know, you're used to your kid being little and adorable and watching SpongeBob, you know what I'm saying? You're not used to your kid coming to you about sex and shit. That's got to be a life-changing experience for some parents. But the reason why you don't see so much teen pregnancy in Europe is because Europeans are very straightforward with their sex education. They're not going to bullshit around the bush, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to be all stark and shit like that. And that's just, you know what I'm saying, and it's not just, you know what I'm saying, like, if your kid's got questions, don't be afraid to answer them. You don't have to give them, like, super raunchy details, just the basics, you know, just so they know, you know, because knowing is half the battle, am I right? I think for a lot of people, especially if they're having kids at a very young age when they haven't had time to mature and fully develop as young adults, and, you know, they lose a lot of sleep because having kids is a responsibility. I had a seminar in a class I took for health ed where I had one of those robotic babies, if you will, and it cried and you had to feed it and change its diaper and shit. It didn't make a mess or nothing. It's just, you know, computerized and shit. And at the end of the assignment, the teacher would check the computer and said this robotic baby or whatever. And if it checked out okay and they got a passing grade, then yeah, you know. I can remember too, you know, being in that school was funny shit because you see these people walking around with little plastic babies. And like, ah, it's funny. And then it happens to you, and you're like, oh. And if anything, that's actually a great way to teach kids responsibility, because if you're trying to sleep and you got a huge math test tomorrow and you don't want to lose sleep over it, and you actually care about your education, you got some plastic baby going, you know, waking you up at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning just to change his fucking diaper, you're thinking, fucking I'm glad this kid ain't real. So this morning didn't exactly start off the best of days for me. This morning I was getting my shirt on here, and my lens had popped off, and I was not happy about it. I was able to go to Walmart though and get the lens put back into place and my glasses tightened up so they fit my face again, and it didn't cost me a thing. So that's awesome that Walmart has that service, because I had to work today, and you know, I can see a little bit without my glasses, but generally, you know, if I'm working, I prefer to have my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing, so I don't fuck up on something, you know what I'm saying? I don't get new glasses too often. You know, I can go maybe 2 to 4 years before I get a new pair of glasses, and that's just because, you know, glasses are expensive as fuck, and eye appointments are expensive as fuck, and, you know, and I've noticed that my eyesight is actually improving as I get older, which is a good thing, you know. My last eye exam I had, the doctor said that my eyesight was improving. I'm like, oh, that's, you know. I went to Job Corps a while back, like I mentioned, and they were doing an oxygen count on my blood, and my blood is 95% oxygen. So it's a good thing, I guess. So I'm not too worried about it's more than one reason why I'm not too worried about the negative effects of tobacco and whatnot. The only time it really affects me though is like if I get like a cold or something, and then the cough's just really extra nasty, but once it's gone away, and you know, it's gone away. Yeah, the whole thing with Oklahoma City, the religious commandments and monuments, it amuses me and disgusts me at the same time. Like, okay, you know, you didn't have a problem when you were putting up your 10 Commandments, but then someone else puts up a statue of Satan or Buddha or whatever, and oh, that's not Sky God, that's not, you know, my national realm of thinking. Oh, you know, so they're gonna get offended. And, yeah. So here's the thing, if you want people to take your religion more seriously, next time, don't pitch a huge bitch fit when someone decides to, you know, go the route you're going as far as you're putting your 10 Commandments up and they're going to put the statue of Satan up, you know what I'm saying? Just be like, yeah, that's cool, you know, we have our 10 Commandments, you know. And that's just the thing, if the people who were reacting to it in a way that was you know, people who were taking offense to it would have just said, whatever, it's life, you know. It wouldn't have gotten drawn out into this big, obnoxiously unnecessary argument, you know what I'm saying? You know, and if I was governor of that city, if, you know, someone says, hey, 10 Commandments, I'm going to say, you can advertise your love for Jesus, just stop the 10 Commandments, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that, you know, some of the things that the politicians of that state have said about how this government status here is all Christian or all Catholic, and that the way they talk about it, you know, they tried making good points on it, and they failed miserably on it, just miserably. I'll pull the video up that I saw it on here, go to YouTube, and you know, this is a story that's been going on for a couple of months now, and I'm surprised it's got this much coverage. I mean, You think we would have been done with it by now, but, you know, it's America. What do you expect? Excuse me. Here's a video. There's an ad. I'll skip it here when I can.
An Oklahoma lawmaker has come up with a very clever way to justify putting Ten Commandment displays on public grounds. Now, this is Republican State Representative John Bennett, and he has a bill that would declare that historically significant documents would be treasures that should be displayed proudly and resolutely in public buildings and on public grounds. And the bill specifically says that the Ten Commandments, Magna Carta, Mayflower Compact, Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the great state of Oklahoma, and other such historically significant documents are recognized throughout the world and therefore are worthy of display.
Okay, so you recognize the U.S. Constitution as a historical document that changed the course of history. Oh my God, this is so fucking hypocritical.
Very clever, John Bennett, but this does not actually change the debate that we've been having since the beginning of this country about the separation of church and state, about what's acceptable to be displayed on public grounds. Simply saying that, oh, now we're recognizing in a piece of paper in one state that these are significant because nobody knew that they were significant before, that's just ridiculous. And he's not putting that, or he doesn't want the displays on public grounds because they're historically significant. He wants it because he wants everybody who goes into these government buildings to know, first and foremost, that Christians are better than every other religious group, and if you're not a Christian, then you're a subordinate, inferior person, and you should be treated that way by the government. That's what John Bennett wants. Now, who's standing up to them? Satanists. Hopefully, reasonable people in government will also do so, but for now, you take the allies you have, and the allies we have is the Satanic Temple. Lucien Graves is their spokesman, and by the way, how great of a name for a Satanist is Lucien Graves? And he says that this is an unlettered little bill, and it's an attempt to codify certain opinions into law, and that seems to be obviously true. It's simply his opinion that these are the most significant texts in the world, and that merits their display in public. He says it's like it needs no citation. It's just assumed that the Ten Commandments were somehow primary to the development of American law. And I think that he makes a good point there. It's not immediately apparent that it's important for the development of American law, but I'll go a step further. Even if it was, that's not how a constitution works. It doesn't matter if something was super important. That doesn't mean that you get to skirt the obvious intent of the founders in writing a constitution, and the fear that they had that when you entangle government and religion, you harm the interests of both, and peripherally, of course, the citizens as well. And I also would say, I've explained one reason why I think that they want these Ten Commandment displays in public, but I think that there are others as well. And here's the thing. Every time Christianity in particular, but the religion in general, is allowed to be made official in some sense by the government, they use that as an excuse to do it again. And I've got several examples of that. When we reference religion on the dollar bill, that now is an explanation for, well, look, it's been around for so long. Clearly, Christianity very important to the history of the United States. When under God is added to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Also on the back of the dollar bill is the Illuminati symbol, the little eye above the pyramid. Something to think about.
Now, it's as if it was never not in there. And it's anathema to any conservative to point out that it wasn't there until like 65 years ago or so. 55, 65, give or take. Every time they're allowed, through bills like this in Oklahoma, to add a little bit of Christianity to our government, it's just chipping away at the wall between religion and government, and it will be used to do it again and again. And that's why, hopefully, the Satanists are not alone in opposing this in Oklahoma. If you allow them to put up their monuments, then they're going to go even farther. They're going to want to, they try already, but they're going to want recognition and allowance for allowing religion to determine our laws. Ironically, these are the people who are saying that Sharia law is trying to take over America while they're trying to do everything they can to institute their own version of religious law across the country for believers and non-believers both. I think that that's obviously wrong and contrary to what the founders want, and that's why I'm fighting against it in this video.
Hold that thought, YouTube. I gotta pee. Oh, God, that King Cobra getting up in the middle of the video to piss. He hasn't done that in a while. It's KingCobraJFS, bitch. Frickin' frickin'. This is what I think of the Ten Commandments. Letting go fuck themselves. It's in the Ten Commandments, is it not, YouTube? Love thy neighbor. You're not going to care if he wants to put a statue up next to your Ten Commandments about Satan. It's just a statue. No. And religion especially has been if you look at history, you know, throughout time, not just at any event, but throughout time, religion is one of those things that unfortunately gets a lot of crap from a lot of people because certain people won't agree with you and certain people in power have the authority to fuck your shit over because you don't think like them. Okay? I'll give you just two examples. Just two examples. Okay? When it comes to religion and people, you know, they don't agree with what you preach or what you practice or what you believe in. So, you know, in ancient times, like when Jesus was around, they crucified him for not thinking like, you know, everyone else. And, you know, and later on, during, you know, the witch trials and all that, people accused of witchcraft are being stoned to death and hung and just horribly mistreated. And it just goes to show you that even though the Salem witch trials are over, and even though the crucifixion of Jesus Christ is over, there's still a lot of intolerance towards certain religions in our country, and not just in our country, all around the world, unfortunately. And it's sickening. It really is. It's like, oh, you know, that person worships Buddha, or that person worships Allah, or that person worships Satan, or that person worships Jesus, you know. Who the fuck are you to judge? You know, who the fuck are you to judge? And what if when you die you get to this supposed heaven that God is every religion into one, and he's playing both sides of the field? Now wouldn't that be some fucked up shit? It'd be kind of like the Wizard of Oz in that aspect, but highly unlikely, you know. So a toast to those who are standing up for what they believe in and not being afraid to say no, and the fact that the government's trying to make this official and make it a law is just ridiculous, because I guarantee you not all government officials are Christian or Catholic. They might say that because it's one of the most popular religions out there, and people say shit like that in their campaign because they know it's a kiss-ass move and they know that's how they'll get their supporters to vote for them, you know. And for Christians and Catholics to go, well, Satan is just a cult and blah, 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 and I go, why is that? Well, because they gather in masses and they pray and da, da, da. Well, wait a second. What do you guys do every Sunday? Well, we go to church and we sing gospel and, you know, we pray. And I'm like, hypocrite! You see what I'm saying? Now, they may not, you know, follow the same practice as you. I'm fucking repeating myself at this point. You know, they may not go to church and sing and do all that shit, but, you know, if you're going to call them a cult because they gather in a mass and pray to their belief system or whatever, who the fuck are they to judge? And again, not all Satanists are evil, and not all Christians are power-hungry hypocrites. It's just the extremes of both ends, you know, the people in the middle, you know, it makes them look bad. It's unfortunate. But it is what it is. So that being said, YouTube, this is KingCobraJFS with another video, and thank you all for watching, and see y'all later.